But then, late yesterday afternoon, Donald Trump spoke at a rally in Ohio, and we decided we have to start here.
We're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars if I get elected. Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars.
It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That will be the least of it. Now, the Trump team quickly said last night, nothing to see here. He was just talking about the auto industry. Consider the full context, everyone. Otherwise, it's irresponsible. Well, if they want us to consider the full context, let's do just that. Because the full context is that Trump kicked off this same exact rally by saluting the people who were convicted for the deadly assault on the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, all to the tune of the national anthem sung by a choir of imprisoned insurrectionists. The full context is that some of the first words out of Trump's mouth last night, same rally, were thanking those rioters and calling them patriots. The full context is that he also said in this same rally, quote, if this election isn't won, I'm not sure that you'll ever have another election in this country. The full context is that he went on to say some undocumented immigrants are, quote, not people. And of course, the full context is that this is much bigger than one single speech. This embrace of political violence, this dehumanizing language, this is what Donald Trump has been preaching for years. In January, he warned that there will be, quote, bedlam in this country if his criminal prosecution derailed his campaign. Late last year, he echoed the dehumanizing language of Adolf Hitler, comparing his political opponents to vermin and saying immigrants are, quote, poisoning the blood of our country. Last month, he said there would be potential death and destruction if he was charged in the Manhattan criminal probe. And during his first term, he flat out refused to condemn the political violence at a white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, saying there were very fine people on both sides. In 2020, he reportedly asked his defense secretary about shooting people who were protesting the death of George Floyd, saying, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something. And of course, his very words inspired violence on January 6, 2021, when he told a crowd of his supporters to walk down to the Capitol and fight like hell because, quote, you'll never take back our country with weakness. Trust me, I could go on and on and on. We all know by now that Trump's allusions to political violence are not merely rhetorical. His supporters take them literally. That's part of the big problem here. And he knows that too. So no, we did not miss the full context. This was not some meandering off-message comment. This is his message. As the Biden campaign put it, this is who Donald Trump is, a loser who gets beat by over 7 million votes and then instead of appealing to a wider mainstream audience, doubles down on his threats of political violence.
So there was former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki following the former president's comments that have gotten a lot of coverage from over the weekend, where he said that there will be a bloodbath if he is not reelected. Now, after Trump's speech, his lackeys in the media were quick to defend the former president and attack everyone in the media for taking him out of context. Ben Shapiro responded like the weasel he is, saying the media's reaction to his own words would end up reelecting him. Elon Musk responded by saying that the media can't be trusted and that everyone should just tune into Twitter to get their news now. I mean, seriously, who needs the media when you can just get your news from famed Twitter journalists like Tucker Carlson and Cat Turd? Fox News responded about how you would expect them to in a similar fashion, saying that they're the only place that can be trusted to tell you the truth.
And with Donald Trump, you have to watch and don't let people report what they think he said.
Context is always important, and we try to give you as much of it as we possibly can.
But if you watch a mainstream media outlet,
right,
you don't get the whole story.
Just watch us. We'll tell you both sides.
So true.
Don't you worry.
But if
And President Biden's campaign also followed up Trump's comments with this new ad out today.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
Jews will not replace us.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
Are you willing to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by.
Please rise for the horribly and unfairly treated January 6th hostages.
There'll be a lot of pardons and commutations of January 6th defendants.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell your supporters now, no matter what, no violence.
And it's going to be a bloodbath.
Now, Trump and his lackeys in the media are right. Context is important. The context in particular that Trump is the first president ever to have his own words inspire an attempt to violently overthrow the government. The context that those same people who tried to overthrow the government are now honored at every single rally he does to glorify what they did and make them out to be hostages. So yeah, context is important, and words are important. When you're running to be the leader of the free world, your words matter, your actions matter. And when your words and actions already led to a violent attempt to overthrow the government, forgive us in the media for thinking it's significant when you call for a bloodbath right after saluting the insurrectionists who are singing the national anthem to introduce you at your hate rally. I mean, seriously, why would you run on a platform of pardoning the violent insurrectionists, make them such a major part of your campaign that they're at every single rally singing the national anthem, and then say the country would experience a bloodbath if you're not elected? The answer seems pretty clear to anyone who sees the full context. And why is right-wing media so naive to this? Remember just following January 6th, how Republicans actually responded? Mitch McConnell said it was a violent insurrection in an attempt to stop the peaceful transfer of power.
We saw what happened. It was a violent insurrection for the purpose of trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power after a legitimately certified election.
And then he endorsed Trump. Nancy Mace said the same thing.
The violent events of last week, watching and witnessing how heartbreaking this was. Thank God I sent my kids home on Monday morning because I was worried about the rhetoric leading up to the events and to the rally on January 6th, the violence that could transpire. Not only were our lives in danger, but if my kids were here, their lives would have been in danger too. The two most precious people in my life.
And then she endorsed Trump. Right-wing media was the same at that time, and they've all since recoiled and backed the tyrannical Orange Mussolini wannabe since then. They all know what Trump is capable of doing with his words. Trump loves to say things that are over the top and dangerous, that his supporters hear loud and clear, then try and come back and point the finger at everyone else by saying the media took him out of context. But in context, the real full context, his words can only be construed one way, as a call to political violence. He has done it before. He showed no remorse and is attempting to rewrite history and rebrand those who acted upon his words with violence as hostages who are being politically persecuted. And those Republicans who called him out after it happened have since forgotten how bad it actually was and lined up to support him again. Let's just be clear though, he will try to do it again. He's saying it every time he does a rally. And he could succeed unless he is stopped in November and hopefully jailed soon after. With Really American, I'm Justin Horwitz. Like, subscribe, set notifications. We've got a ton planned going into this critical election year, and we cannot do it without you. Thanks.